The title of today's presentation is Less is More. Today's presentation is a very unique one. As officials, most of us give our very best effort to officiate contests to the best of our abilities. In doing so, there can be times where we do more than we should. Those times result in us finding ourselves in some precarious positions and situations. Less is More will analyze situations where we end up doing too much. We will demonstrate where doing less ends up being the most that we should do. Let's look at some things as officials that we should do. We should have a proper pregame. We should observe warm-ups. We should greet the coaching staff prior to the start of the contest. During the contest, we should use proper mechanics. During the contest, we should also use strong and proper signals. We should have measured and excellent hustle. We should give maximum effort, and we should definitely be excellent dead ball officials. During the contest, we should perform consistent eye scans. If the sport we are officiating warrants it, we should move. We should have excellent rotations, switches, and transitions. In any contest that we officiate, we should insert ourselves only when absolutely necessary. And above all, we should remember that we are the authority of the contest. The next four things are probably the four most important things in not only officiating, but perhaps in life when we are being professionals. We should learn the ins and outs of great customer service. We should learn how to listen, understand the difference between listening and hearing. We should learn how to talk to people. And most importantly, we should learn how to work with others. Now, let's take a look at some things as officials that we should not do. We should not do opposite of everything and what we should do. We should not talk or have more conversations than actual officiating of the contest. We should not try to be everyone's friend. And we should not fail to establish parameters and or expectations during and even before the contest. We should not be overly demonstrative in our signals. We should not sell our calls. And we should not avoid being human. We're human beings officiating other human beings. And probably most important, we should not suck up to people or kiss ass, as some people would like to say. Now that we have seen a brief checklist of things that we should and should not do as officials, let's perform a deeper analysis on both sets of checklists. Here's a list of recommended things we should do during our pregame. We should have discussions and conversations with our partners about the contest that we are tasked with officiating. At a minimum, we should greet the head coaches and coaching staff prior to the start of the contest. The benefit to greeting the coaches and coaching staff before the contest is that now you create a relationship with your head coaches. You show them that they can talk to you and you should be able to talk to them, which is very helpful during the contest. Next, we should have a discussion with our scoring table officials about the contest we are tasked with officiating. You need them as much as they need you. So having communication and a discussion prior to the start of the contest with your scoring table officials ensures that you all will be able to effectively communicate throughout the contest. We should absorb the warm-ups of the teams involved in the contest. We should survey the playing venue of the contest. We want to ensure that players and officials do not have obstructions that could cause injury, and that players and officials have the maximum amount of space possible to be able to function during the contest. If applicable, we should have a pregame, pre-match conference with head coaches and or team captains or representatives. I realize sometimes if you're officiating recreational games or tournament events, especially during the spring or summer, you may or may not be able to necessarily have a pregame or pre-match conference with team captains or team representatives due to time constraints. But at a minimum, you certainly can spend a couple of minutes with the head coaches and coaching staff and greet them. We should not spend all of our pregame with one head coach and not the other. Think about the optics of how that looks to a head coach that is observing you spending all your potential pregame, pre-match time with another coach. He or she may observe or assume that you have a personal relationship with said coach. Keep those things in mind. Lastly, think of what will happen if you don't have a pregame prior to the start of the contest, or at a minimum, you don't establish these new relationships with coaches, your partners, and your scoring table officials. Will you be prepared for atypical and challenging situations when and if they occur in the contest? During the pregame, the majority of teams will participate in warm-ups. So we should observe these warm-ups. Why, you ask? You want to gauge the potential abilities of the participants in the contest. You want to observe how teammates communicate with one another. You want to observe how coaches interact with players. You want to observe how coaches interact with one another. Warm-ups also give you the opportunity to take care of your pregame, pre-match responsibilities. If we are in recreational contests or tournament events, please do not spend the entirety of your warm-ups on your smartphones. What are you doing on your smartphones? Is it officiating related? We should also not spend the entirety of warm-ups engaged in social conversation that does not pertain to the contest at hand. Just like we talked about in pregame and pre-match, think of the optics that we give off if we spend the majority of our pregame, pre-match, and warm-ups in social conversation. And again, as we discussed earlier, we should not spend a large majority with one head coach and not the other. Those give off negative optics. Think about how such optics can affect your contest. Signals are the use of our body to communicate to our partners, coaches, players, fans, and so forth. They communicate our accurate rulings and decisions. Hopefully, our accurate rulings and decisions. If we use strong and proper signals, it generally makes it easier for everyone to comprehend our accurate ruling. I don't say that they will agree with your accurate ruling, but it will make it easier to understand exactly what you are deciding and ruling. Sometimes using a strong and proper signal in combination with our voice is even better. It also demonstrates the confidence in the decision that we have made. If we are overly demonstrative with our signals, we are trying to convince people of something that we may not be totally sure of ourselves. This can potentially lead to tense and volatile interactions and conversations with not only players, but coaches as well. Remember, we are arbitrators that are trying to make objective and accurate rulings and decisions. We're not salespeople. We are not trying to sell people products or services. Be the authority. We've discussed in this presentation a lot about optics. If people do not know you, all they can go off of is what they see. Give them something positive to go with. One of the ways that we should do this as officials is to give our very best hustle and give our very best effort. Generally, a consistent and purposeful power walk, jog, run, and so forth often gets us to an optimal and correct position to make accurate rulings and decisions. It is a professional demonstration of our hustle and effort. These movements do not have to be hurried. They just simply must have purpose, and they must be efficient. If you hurry in such movement, you can project indecisiveness and lateness. Speaking of movements, we should be knowledgeable in our sports when we are required to make movements such as rotations, switches, transitions, and so forth. And again, this will depend on the sport in question. The key to these movements are they must be efficient, consistent, and have purpose. Consistent eye scans are another professional demonstration of our hustle and effort. It promotes that we have game awareness. We should always have game awareness of action in our primary coverage area, but we should have a keen awareness of action in our secondary coverage area. This is where a lot of officials lose people. And when I say they lose people, what I mean is they lose credibility and they lose respect. And if you lose credibility and respect in the contest, your contest is going to go all to hell. Remember, officials are there to be an unbiased authority, not necessarily be someone's friend. So let's be the authority. As officials and referees, we wear a lot of hats. We are parents, mediators, counselors, arbitrators, and judges. And as you can see by these various roles, all these roles are leadership positions. And we serve in all these particular types of leadership positions during the contest. We know that leadership positions, more times than not, are not popular. So do not go into a contest seeking approval and popularity. Remember that your authority requires respect. It requires you give respect, and you definitely should expect it in return. It demands that you set expectations of respect. Our authority also demands resolving issues of behavior and unsporting conduct. And it demands that we know when we should be nice, stern, diplomatic, or autocratic. One of the places where a lot of us fail as officials is we do not set parameters and expectations prior to the start of the contest. This is where an excellent pre-game or pre-match conversation with head coaches, coaching staffs, and players is very helpful. This is where having good, crisp, strong signals is very helpful. This is where establishing dialogue prior to the start of the contest is very helpful. Do the game participants have an idea of the game parameters and expectations? When did we set them? How did we set them? Did we set them verbally? Did we set them with our accurate rulings? Consider this especially for recreational events and tournament events. If teams that are set to play next on your court or field are observing you, remember, you are setting parameters and expectations through their observations. Ensure that the expectations and parameters that you set in games prior to another contest are consistent. Can we be friends? During the pre-game, pre-match, and warm-ups, did you establish that you are to be an authority of the contest or that you're going to be a friend to everyone in the contest? And do you think you can garner the respect required in a contest as a friend or authority? Speaking of being friendly, let me ask you something. What are your intentions to befriending the signers, executive board members, high-level officials, and people of influence? Is your ability to officiate not enough to achieve your professional ambitions? I would be foolish in telling you not to network. You should absolutely network in this profession of officiating. I would be foolish not to tell you to introduce yourselves to your assigners, to your board members, to high-level officials and people of influence. They should know who you are. But those individuals are not going to sign off and put their name and reputation on the line if you do not have the ability to officiate the contest. That's something that you want. Humanity. Did you know that we as officials and referees are human? So is it okay for us to unintentionally be in error or make a mistake? Is it okay for us to smile during the contest? Is enjoying what you do while working allowed? Is admitting that you have made a mistake allowed? Is admitting that someone else is correct allowed? Is having empathy allowed? I will pose a potential question to answer these series of questions. We are human beings officiating other human beings. We are imperfect beings tasked with officiating other imperfect beings. Food for thought. Earlier in this presentation, we talked about things that we should do. And you may recall there was a particular slide that I said was the most important. Well, now we dive deeper into the most important slide with regards to officiating and perhaps with life. Customer service. If we go to a store or a restaurant and we are the customers, how do we treat the people tasked with serving us? Do we treat them well? Do we not treat them well? Do we treat them as equals? Do we treat them less than? If those roles were reversed, then how would you want people to treat you? You should always treat people the way you desire to be treated. Listening versus hearing. Both require the use of ears, but there is a stark difference between the two. Hearing requires nothing more than awareness. I could be officiating a basketball tournament or a volleyball tournament in a large facility and I can hear hundreds of whistles. I could hear thousands of people talking, even if I'm wearing earplugs. However, listening requires hearing with thoughtful attention and giving consideration. And I will leave it at that. Learning how to talk to people. Ladies and gentlemen, when you are officiating hundreds and thousands of unique beings. Everyone is a unique individual unto themselves. It is almost impossible to talk to two people the same way and achieve the desired results. Part of officiating, and part of life for that matter, is learning how you can interact with different people in the same setting. We must comprehend how to talk to every individual. You may be able to be nice to one individual. You may have to be stern with another individual who is a teammate of the first person, and so forth and so on. Working with others. Our job is heavily dependent on working with other people. Most of these people are officiating partners by rule. The scoring table officials are officials by rule. Most rule books have sections within the rule book that covers the scoring table officials. Our partners are officials as well, no matter their level of experience. We must give all of them the respect that we desire them to give us. We must learn to listen to them as we desire them to listen to us. We must remember that in the majority of contests that we officiate, we are not a solo authority. Before we conclude this presentation, I want to give a few credits and some shout outs. First, we would like to give credit to Slides Mania for the use of this presentation template, Unsplash for the use of the images within this presentation template. We would also like to give credit to David Barnes, who is a volleyball official extraordinaire from the state of Ohio, who made major contributions to this presentation. We would also like to give a special shout out to the people at Crown Refs, who also gave some great and wonderful contributions to this presentation as well. Thank you for spending part of your day with us. We appreciate you viewing this presentation. We hope you take something from it that can serve you in your officiating endeavors as well as your life. Thank you once again for spending part of your day with us. Have a great contest, a great day, a great week, a great year, a great season.